there, welcome to my channel. My name is Linda. I have some fun crafts for you today. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Today we'll be working on some Rustic Farmhouse Christmas tree crafts, so let's get started with project number 1. For our tree crafts, I'll be using a lot of bottle brush trees today. You can get those at Dollar Tree. This is a ring I believe I got at Dollar Tree. It might have been Hobby Lobby, you know, like in a 4 or 5 pack. I'd spray painted it a couple years ago. And then I got this big spindle at a garage sale. It's already cut, but I wanted to show you how big it was. It's really cool looking, and I cut it off to this. And what I liked about it is it already had a slit in it to put my ring in it, but I can't get my ring all the way down inside because there's like a couple of nails down deep. And I was going to cut it, but then I saw where the little weld was, and so I just kind of flexed the ring back and forth, and it just snapped apart really easily. So now I can just kind of pull it apart, kind of tuck it down in that slit and underneath those nails. Now, I'm still going to use some beacon glue. This is Beacon 527 because it says it bonds, you know, wood and metal, and I'm just going to saturate that inside. Now, if you're using like a wood spindle, you want to make a slit, you could run your spindle kind of through like just slightly through a table saw, and then you can chisel it out a little bit more, drill a couple of pilot holes close together and chisel that out somehow so that your ring can kind of lay down in the wood versus on top. I think it'll be more stable, and hopefully that was understandable. For the greenery today, I've got a lot, but mostly I'm going to use this from Dollar Tree. Now, I know it was $5, but I've bought tons of picks from Hobby Lobby, and this is actually way cheaper, and you get more bang for your buck than you would at Hobby Lobby, and you don't have to wait for a sale. So I'm cutting off these 1 pieces that I'm going to use on this project, and in these snowy pieces, and I love snowy greenery, so that's why this is wonderful. I'm going to use it in our next project, so I'm getting 2-for-1 projects out of this. So I've got my ring all glued in, and then I've just got some other greenery I've kind of, you know, it was already wired together, and I just kind of flattened it out. I'm gluing it on. These sticks came from some greenery as well, just gluing it on. And then here comes that snowy greenery from the tree I just cut off. And Dollar Tree has like 3 or 4 different kinds of trees you can use. So I picked up a couple of them because I really do think it was a great deal. So I'm getting a little bit of greenery on here, snowy on top, kind of going from large to a little bit smaller up on top. And then I'm using 3 different kind of bottle brush trees here. And as we all know, Dollar Tree has lots of bottle brush trees. So I got 2 in for now. Then I'll put a little bit more greenery in. Then I'll tuck another tree in. Really just how you want it. I'm on kind of the back side here. That's why it looks like I have... That's why it looked like, how did one tree get on the other side? I turned it without you seeing it. So I'm just kind of working on the back side here, making sure it looks nice, and then I'll turn it back around and we'll work again on the front side. I did want to bring to your attention, because I know you can see it, how my greenery in the ring is a little bit over to the left here. That's because that's where the slit was on the spindle, but I did try to place and adjust my greenery so that in the end it looked all centered on the spindle when you turn it around to the front. But just different picks, greeneries, whatever you want. You don't even have to use trees in the middle, but this is a tree DIY, so that's what we're going with. Adding some little red berries. We're back on the front now. Beaded berries from Hobby Lobby. Some pine cones that came on the pick. And yes, I'm using my glue gun. You have to with all this greenery. Adding these snowy pine cones that I love. All right, and then I just ripped some fabric, about a 1.5-inch strip, tied it in a bow, and I'm going to glue that right down underneath that center tree. This is a real quick and easy project. Really probably took me about 45 minutes. And then I'm just going to kind of wrinkle and crinkle my tails of my bow and glue them down because I like to have long tails. I tried to wrinkle and crinkle like this left side so that you could still see those little cutouts and stuff right up under that tail of that ribbon there. You can still, you know, see that vintageness of that. And then I'm just taking some red and cream twine. I added a bell to it, tied it into a bow, and I'm going to glue it right in the center of the fabric bow. And then I'm going to use our shimmer glitter dust here. I'll have a link in my description box to the Etsy shop I buy this from. It's clear glitter. Clear spray with very fine silver glitter, and that makes this project complete. We'll take a look at the results at the end of the video. Let's move on into project number 2. For this project, I have like a scrap piece of wood here. And then this came from a piece of wood we used in a video not that long ago. It was vintage aside from a crate. I cut a piece off. This was the leftover piece, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. And this box I got at a sale, but it's too tall. So I'm going to see here, and it worked. I thought it was just nailed. I didn't think it was wood glued, and I am able to get it apart. So off camera, I'm going to take it all apart, and then I'm going to cut down the main wood pieces here in half. All right, and then I will go ahead and nail it back together. And that way it gives me half of a box, and it's going to be perfect size. And here it is, all nailed back together. I still didn't wood glue it because it's really stable. And now I have these other 4 pieces. All I need to do is cut a bottom, and now I've got 2 boxes out of one for, you know, a couple dollars. Right? Yes, here we are. We're using this from project number 1. It's going to be perfect. And then you could use like the Dollar Tree Christmas tree. And then if you want to, you could just cut some of the branches off and make it look real pitiful. So here's my one stick. I cut it down to what I needed and sanded it. And it's going to go like this, so it kind of makes this a little sign. Set that aside. I'm using this burlap ribbon fabric from Dollar Tree, this fabric from Hobby Lobby. I'm going to cut it to about, I think it was about a 13 by 13, as well as a piece of batting. You'll cut it to whatever size you need for your box, plus a couple inches, diameter of your box plus a couple of inches. And then I'm going to use these couple of pieces of fabric, although I do change the smaller check later. All right, here everything is cut. I'm going to sandwich the batting between the 2 pieces of fabric. You do not have to use batting. It's optional. I've got it pinned. So whether you use 1 piece of fabric or 2 pieces of fabric if you want it double-sided, or batting in between. All right. We all have to do the same thing, either from a diagonal or across. We need to make a slit to the center of our fabric so that it can become a tree skirt and wrap around our tree base. So I'm going to cut all the way in. Just like that. And if you're a gluer, glue it all together and just make sure you get your sides down really well, whether or not you use batting. And of course, if you're a sewer, just sew all the way around it. Okay, and then see, we're going to just like this around our tree skirt, right? There you go. At this point, I was going to put the burlap up, but then I decided to put the burlap down, and there we go. Now, this is about, I just drew a 3-inch diameter circle, 2 pieces of fabric, 2 pieces of batting, but this little red check, I think it was too loud for fabric, so later you'll see me working with just plain red fabric, but I'm going to sandwich the 2 pieces of batting between the 2 pieces of fabric. If you're a gluer and you use batting, glue the batting to each piece of your fabric, and whether or not you use batting, the inside between the 2 fabric, glue along that perimeter to put the 2 pieces together, and then make sure you leave a little opening for stuffing. If you're a sewer, you're going to sew the 2 pieces together, leaving a little opening for stuffing. So of course, here I am sewing it together. And then I'm coming along on our little tree skirt, and I will actually sew this twice all the way around. Here I am on the slit. I cut out the straight areas. I'm going to kind of come past the slit and then turn it to be able to come back down. And I go a little bit crookedy, but I don't care. And then, of course, continue on around the straight edges. But I sewed around twice because the large weave of the burlap fabric, that way I know it's secure. So here it is all sewn. I'm going to add a little button here. I'm going to use Distress Oxide ink in Walnut Stain. I'm going to ink up this button because it's too pretty. And then I'm just going to take some of that cream and red twine and go through the holes of the button and then just tie a little bow. And then later we'll glue this button on and it'll look like we sewed it on, right? Next thing we'll do is we're going to stuff our ornaments here. Now, if you don't want to make an ornament, just use a regular ornament or paint a little ceramic ornament. Those little ceramic ornaments you can get from Dollar Tree, whatever you want. All right, once it's stuffed, I take a little bit of twine and I'm tying it at the bottom in a knot so I have a loop. Now, what you want to make sure of is when you go to glue this in, you want your loop to be sideways, all right? You want the string up, the loop sideways, so that when you go to hang this on the tree, your ornament won't twist. If you glue it in with your loop facing up, then your ornament's going to twist. So, like I said, this is what it'll look like. Once you get that glued in there, you can glue it shut or sew it shut, whatever you want. And now I'm just taking a regular piece of twine and I'm just tying a little bow right down at the bottom of that loop above the ornaments. And then I've got a little rusty star here. I'm just using my crocodile to punch a little hole And then I'll use a little rusty safety pin and I'll pin it right at the center of that bow on the ornament. And our ornament is done. Looks cute, but simple. And now I've got 2 pieces of this fabric. You don't need to, it's just my fabric is really flimsy. So I just did 2 pieces and I'm gonna just sew around the whole thing. It's probably about 2 inches wide. I just ripped 2 strips, probably about 40 inches long. All right, now I'm taking antique wax mixed with water and I'm gonna paint my little pole of my sign here. And then I'm using Dixie Belle paint in the color drop cloth and I'm just kind of painting on, just kind of haphazardly on the top, just a little swatch of paint. All right, and then once that dries, I use water to kind of tone it down a little bit and it spreads a little easier. And then once it's dry, I'm just using some 120 grit sandpaper and distressing it a little bit. I just want a little bit of color in the background. That's it. I don't want too much. And then I'm going to sand my little pole of my sign as well. And now we're going to add a little quote I've cut out in vinyl to the sign. I have made a free printable for you. There's 2 designs. If you look to the left now, I've got one that's like a horizontal design with and without a little ornament. And then I've got one that's a vertical design with and without an ornament. And they are in PDF and PNG, linked to my blog in the description box. And then you can, print out whichever one you need. All right? All right, get this on there. And I'm going to take my black paint mixed with water, dip my fan brush in it, and then tap my fan brush onto the sign and make some little bitty splatters as usual. And now I'm going to put my tree on a base to go inside the box. And this little stand on it is curved, so I put a piece of cardboard in there. And then I'm going to add like 3, 4 different sizes of wood blocks to kind of get my tree up near the top of the box. So I'm getting it all glued together with some good glue and I'm gonna let it set. And now I have a scrap piece of wood. I kind of pre-hammered some nails in there and I'm gonna put it in the bottom of my signpost because it needs stability as well, and then hammer those in. And then I'm going to glue my sign onto my signpost and I'm gluing it so it's crickety on purpose, but then I want it to look like someone nailed a signpost or a sign to the signpost, so I'm hammering in some nails on the front as well. All right, now I've got glue on the bottom of my base there, and I'm gluing that into the box, and then I'm gluing down my sign into the front of the box. The tree's at the back, the sign is at the front, and now I'm bringing my tree skirt around my tree, and then I'm going to also, I like to put stuffing in underneath the tree skirt so that it helps kind of hold my tree skirt up from underneath. Now I'm taking where I, cut our tree skirt in and I'm gluing that all together. And I like to overlap them so it's fun. And then I'm gluing my button kind of right at the junction of that overlap. And then I kind of stuff my tree skirt in and around the box. And I will glue it to the box along the inside a little bit on top so that it stays all wrinkly and crinkly in the box. Okay, I'll set that aside for a minute. Here is my fabric all sewn together. You could use regular ribbon. You don't even have to use fabric, but I'm going to tie it into a bow. Nice and easy. I don't want too much because I want the tree to be attention, but it needs a little decoration. And I have a great big rusty bell and safety pin. I'm just pinning that to the front of the bow, and I change view here for you, of course. And I'm going to glue that bow kind of to the side a little bit so you see it slightly, but not be center of attention. And I'm going to divert your gaze for a minute to the sign. You can see how I wrap the tree skirt around that. We'll fill that in, don't worry. So now let's get back to the bow. I'm going to wrinkle and crinkle my bow tails so that they look cute. Do a little bit more gluing to hold the skirt in place. And then we'll come back to where the sign is, because I didn't make a slit in the fabric for the sign. So I thought I'll just wrinkle and crinkle up around it. And I'm adding some Excelsior here, like it's dried grass coming up around the sign to fill that space. And then I'm going to add the ornament to the top of our tree. Bring in our glitter dust. And while I'm spraying, I have a question for you. I had to go back and watch the Charlie Brown video, and sometimes there was one branch hanging off, sometimes there was 6 or 7 branches, but these little greenery branches are very full. So do you think I should take off one more branch to make it look a little more scarce? Leave me a comment down below and let me know your thoughts. Once I spray this, that makes this project complete. We'll take a look at the results at the end of the video. Let's move on to our last project, number 3. For this project, I picked up this pillar for a couple dollars again at like a thrift sale, and I have a couple pieces of salvaged wood. I'm going to have to glue those together. I want to lay them on top for the base. And I'm going to use some Gorilla wood glue here, just putting them together. And then, of course, I will clamp them up for a little bit. Make sure that wood glue sticks nice and tight. And then I've got 2 strips of fabric, a couple inches wide. I ripped, again, about 40-some inches long. All right. And then I'm going to put a piece of batting in between the two. You can do with or without batting. You can use regular ribbon. You don't even have to have a bow. It's whatever you want. I'm going to just place it together like this, and I'm going to sew around the entire perimeter, leaving the edges out. Sometimes I sew and leave one end open, and I, turn it right side out, etc., etc. Nope, not doing it this time. Going to be lazy. If you want to do this, you can glue it all together. It'll work perfectly fine. Here it is done, and I'm just tying it into a bow. Nice and easy. So sandwich some batting in between 2 strips of fabric, sew or glue it together, and you're done. Now I've got a couple of trees here, again, from Dollar Tree I'm going to use on this project. A lot of different greenery. That's from Walmart. This is from a sale. This is Hobby Lobby. Now this one I left on here because this, look, it's $5. Look how much we get compared to that tree we just used for 2 projects for $5. That's what I was getting at earlier. Going to use some lights from Dollar Tree as well. And then this is a little, about a 6-inch long little red truck from Hobby Lobby. Cost me about $8. I'll leave a link down below for you. Another little tree to go inside the truck. You knew it was going to happen. And a couple of pieces of wood to build a sign with. I'm going to use this quick hold glue added along the top of that pillar candle. And I wanted a little bit more space on the inside to glue. So I'm just stacking scrap wood and adding more glue. So I've got a lot more perimeter to glue onto our wood base. And then I'm going to add a little piece of scrap wood inside the truck bed here. Glue it down, add a little cotton to fill the space in. And then I just, a little piece of fabric and a little piece of batting I sewed together. And I'm just going to make a cute little truck bed cover. That's all. And then take some of that red and green, or cream, I was looking at the green tree. Cream twine we've been working with, tie it twice around the tree, and then make a little bow. I took the base off of that little tree. And these little trees from Dollar Tree is in a 3-pack. It comes with their Christmas Village set. And I'm going to glue a little at the bottom and split a little bit at the top and put some right in that greenery there so that I can glue it into the bed and then glue it to the top of the truck so it's nice and stable. And this is what that looks like. Super cute. All right, now I'm going to use these tumbling tower block pieces you can get at Dollar Tree. I like that they're bigger in size, and you can see I glued it underneath our wood piece, kind of the side of our base, so that I have a spot for our bow to be glued to. All right, and now I'm just gluing in however much greenery you want, whatever greenery you want, and I'm just gluing in and making sure I cover the base. I may have gotten a little bit too much greenery, but, it might look a little full, but once you see the truck and everything, you'll forget about the greenery. I'm using all different kinds here. I make sure the back looks nice as well as the front. And of course, as I stated earlier, I love snowy greenery, so I'm using all sorts of snowy greenery. I use the more bigger, fuller pieces toward the back and a little bit less full toward the front, but still have that full look. And then, of course, layering different pieces so it looks nice. And it's still not enough here, so I'm going to add a little bit more. Use as little or as much as you want. I won't fault you for it. Look how much I used. Now I'm using some multi-purpose spray adhesive, and I'm spraying the bottom of the tree around the bottom, and then I'm just putting it into a bag of snow, and I do this process twice so that they're real snowy and glittery, and you can't see the brown of the bases. And yes, I could have just painted them. I didn't feel like it. This was easy. And as you can see, I just have a block laying there, and I'm just going to set my truck on top. I'll take the truck on and off, but it helps me to know where I can place my trees and get those glued down. But I am going to use that block under the truck because there's space between the truck and the greenery, and I need to fill that space in. So now I'm going to kind of glue that block down. Still won't glue the truck on. I'm just going to lay it there and figure out where I want to glue my pine cones around the truck. Add some of those in, of course, and now I'll go ahead and glue my truck down to that little block. And I'm gluing it at a slant. You can't tell from the angle I am, but I'm gluing it as a slant. And now what I'm doing, just like I did the other sign, I'm using Waverly Antique Wax mixed with water first to do a little bit of staining on my wood. And then, of course, I'll sand that up a little bit. And then I'll come in and just add, our little swoosh of white paint on our square sign. And then I'll distress that up a little bit, of course. Here I am swooshing, wetting it down because it just kind of makes it look a little bit more not so heavy on the paint. And now I've got another free printable for you. I've got 2 different sizes for you. It'll be a PDF and a PNG. Again, link to my blog in the description box. This is probably about a 2 by 2.5 size. So I made the other one a little bit bigger. And I've got it cut out in vinyl, of course, and then pulling my carrier sheet off. I thought it would make the truck look like it fit in with the trees. And of course, adding some splatter with the fan brush and watered down black paint. And now I'm going to go ahead and glue my sign to my sign post again, gluing it a little bit crookedy. And then I'll just glue it down, right down in the greenery between the trees and the trucks. It's really tight in there, so it's perfect. But I had to kind of glue it in an angle anyway, so one, it looks cute, but 2, you could see it, where the truck's in front of it. And then here is my bow I tied with my fabric, and I just had a little wood candy cane, and I safety pinned that to the front, and we're going to glue that right onto that tumbling tower block centered right underneath that truck. Our project is almost complete, but first we have to finish it off with some shimmer dust, and you're probably wondering, I thought you were going to put lights on this. I almost forgot, but they are on there. I'll show you here in the next clip. I just wound it around the greenery along the bottom, and then on the back side I took some really super strong Velcro strips you can get at Dollar Tree, and I just Velcroed it underneath that wood base. That way you could take it on and off to replace the batteries, and that makes this project complete. I hope you enjoyed all of our projects today with a tree theme in mind. Leave me a comment down below and let me know which project was your favorite. And also remember to address my little Charlie Brown tree issue. Should I take off one more branch? I'm only going to make one of these because I'm just not sure. Like, the vision in my head I think was better than the way it came out, although I think it's awful cute. Please give this video a thumbs up. And if you walked in here for the first time, you're just checking things out, you're digging what you saw, make sure before you click off, you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on another project from me. Now, before I go, I'm going to leave you with one final thought. God knew that worry and anxiety would affect you at some point in your life. In fact, he devoted some teaching to this very subject in the book of Matthew. And maybe that time of stressing out is happening now, but living in a constant state of worry is against what your body needs. God knows everything that you need in order to survive and to have peace in whatever you may be facing at this very moment. In the Bible, the book of Matthew, chapter 11, verses 28 and 29, it says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." You see, he knows how interconnected you are with your mind and your body, and when you get off track, it can rob you of the joy within your spirit and his peace within your soul. You need to know that with God, you are enough. And as long as you find value in what God has for you, you can have the care and nourishment that only he can provide to keep your posture upright. In the book of Hebrews, chapter 6, verse 19, it says, "This hope, this confident assurance we have as an anchor of the soul, it cannot slip and it cannot break down under whatever pressure bears upon it. A safe and steadfast hope that enters within the veil of the heavenly temple, that the most holy place in which the very presence of God dwells." Whatever is heavy upon your heart in this moment, lay it down. Turn your attention on Jesus. Keep your eyes on his love for you. He has this beautiful place where you can lay down your burdens and find rest. Here's the thing though. It may not be easy to let it all go in an instant, but you have to make the choice to try. And once you realize that it's easier with him versus without him, all these worries and anxieties and fears will fall away, and then you can be in his presence and receive the gift of his grace. In Isaiah chapter 43, verse 19, it says, "Listen carefully. I'm about to do a new thing. Now it will spring forth. Will you not be aware of it? I will even put a road in the wilderness and rivers in the desert." Let the peace of God be real in your life. Let go and let God give your soul what it needs to face another day. Let go and receive all that He has waiting for you. Allow His care for you to be such a huge part of your life that you carry it within you wherever you go. The book of 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 7 says, "Cast all your cares, all your anxieties, all your worries, and all your concerns once and for all on Him, for He cares about you with deepest affection and watches over you very carefully." So let your ears hear this. With His grace you are loved. With His heart you are treasured. With His strength you are safe. Lean on Him and allow your faith in Him to give you rest. Allow Jesus to give you peace and a sound mind. And I say this for all of you who may be facing something right now. I pray it for you. Allow Jesus to give you peace and a sound mind. In His name, amen. I thank you for sharing your time with me, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.